Don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th.
That was Vice President Harris's most recent message to supporters after the Democrats' second loss to Donald Trump. 8 years ago, when Trump took office for the first time, we saw an immediate response and 4 years of proactive resistance. So how fierce will the pushback be this time? Skye Perryman joins us now. Skye is president and CEO of Democracy Forward, which is a nonprofit, progressive-leaning legal organization. Skye, thanks for making time on a holiday week. What may be different this time? How might your challenges be different than they were in 2017?
You know, I think this is a challenging time. We have a president-elect that on the campaign trail distanced himself from Project 2025, disavowed it, and we're already seeing him appoint a number of people, or at least announce the intention to appoint a number of people that really want to accelerate an extreme agenda. And so it is going to be important that people in communities have representation in court this time, because a lot of what the president-elect and his associates are planning to do is not only harmful, but it is unlawful. So I think you'll see a lot of litigation. That is certainly what we are planning, and at Democracy Forward, should the administration break the law. And I also think that you'll see a lot of people in community really seeking to build their own collective power, institutions standing up for science, for evidence, standing against extremism is going to be really important this time.
You mentioned Project 2025 as a possible source of pushback, maybe as a source of litigation. That thing touches on everything from veterans issues, Social Security, nuclear policy, communications. How do you triage or pick what might be first?
Well, I think that the president-elect has made clear now in these days after the election a range of things that they're going to seek to accelerate, including undermining the ability of our government to work for all people through our independent civil service, undermining healthcare access, and a range of things that people and communities rely on. And so, it will be important that all people use their voice in this time, and triaging it, I think, is really some of the most extreme proposals seeking to weaponize the government against the American people. Those are the ones that you're going to see immediate and forceful responses to.
You're not a political organization, you're a nonprofit, but perhaps it's worth noting that some progressive media audiences have declined since the election. Those who cater to the progressive audience may be having a more difficult time mobilizing the troops, galvanizing the troops. Have you noticed that? Has your organization seen maybe a lack of enthusiasm or fervor that you may have enjoyed in 2016 and 2017?
No, what we've actually seen is that institutions are much more organized than they were last time. I think it was hard for the American people and hard for many organizations to really envision the level of extremism that we saw in the last administration. This time, the legal community is more prepared. We have launched an effort called Democracy 2025, which you can go to the website, democracy2025.org, to see hundreds of organizations that have coalesced around, of course, a hope that this is an administration that will govern and will serve all of the American people, but a real resolve that if they don't, and if they break the law and engage in policies and activities to the detriment of people and communities, that there will be representation in court and in other spaces for those communities to push back.
Don't you see Republicans also being more unified and more organized to champion Trump's policies? You know, famously, John McCain stood up to then President Trump and stopped the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. Is it a bigger hurdle for you that the Republicans seem to be more speaking with one voice this time?
You know, it's interesting. I don't think we've seen that, at least in the last few weeks. We've already seen the president-elect have to walk away from one of his nominees to lead the Department of Justice because there was not unity on that. But we do know that there is an organized, very far-right effort in this country. That is an effort that does not represent the majority of people. We saw the majority of people have rejected Project 2025. It's why the president-elect had to distance himself from it. In deep red states, we saw ballot initiatives on abortion access and public education and climate win this last time. So we know where the American people are, and I do think but we also know that there is an organized opposition.
Who do you see as being the face of the initial resistance in the coming years? There were some Democrats who overachieved, down ballot. There are some aspiring, likely future candidates, but who would you recommend or see as the face of the resistance?
You know, what I hope is that you'll see the faces of people and communities across this nation, those that may not agree on everything or every policy matter, but that all agree on the importance of democracy and the importance of a government for all people. I hope that what we see is those diverse communities, everyone's from veterans to healthcare to frontline workers to voters to students to parents, really unified in this moment to say that there is no mandate for extremism. There is a candidate and now a president-elect who won electorally, but he only did so by distancing himself from these extreme policies that he's now seeking to accelerate. And so what I hope we see and what we will work to see is that it will really be we the people that will need to be the face of this next chapter of American life.
Skye Perryman, we'll monitor your work moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.